you can start. I know you do have your officials, but I will give this opportunity to you just to give the input before the officials can brief us. Thank you very much. The time is yours, Honorable Minister.
Madam Chairperson, always a pleasure to meet with honorable members and an honor to share the pain that we think or believe that one day we shall overcome. Honorable members of the multi-party caucus, members of Parliament, deputy ministers, director generals, and all senior officials, but really from the IMC, by that I mean from our department, police, justice, and social development. We are here to interact with you just on the eve of the UN 16 days of no violence against women and children. As far as we are concerned, we have said months ago that ours is going to be 365, but we are members of the UN. We stick to the calendar of the UN. We are the UN. The campaign begins tomorrow on the 25th of November, on the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Children, and runs until, as you said, Chair, the International Day of Human Rights, which are equally women's rights. 16 Days of Activism campaign is the longest standing global initiative that is endorsed by the United Nations. The campaign aims to galvanize support in eradicating violence against women and girls. At a national level, our government has undertaken the campaign since 1998, and it has since evolved from a communications campaign into a holistic campaign that includes all sectors of society advocating against gender-based violence and femicide. Over the years, we have witnessed horrific, I think even as we sit here, increase in levels of gender-based violence and femicide in our country. Women, children, persons with disabilities, elderly women, LGBTQIA+ community, migrant workers, particularly women and sex workers, continue to have their human rights violated at the hands of those they trust and those they don't know. Based on this reality, we have evolved our campaigns to the days I've already referred to earlier on. We have marched, we have petitioned, we keep going around all avenues that can help us really turn the tide. We are determined, we are resilient, and we continue to say we shall overcome. Noma Kunzi. Honorable Chairperson, this year's theme of the 16 Days of Activism is Socio-Economic Rights and Empowerment to build women's resilience against gender-based violence and femicide. The clarion call: connect, collaborate, and contract. The theme is informed by this year's National Women's Month theme. Both systems are underpinned by the critical findings from the South African gender assessment done by the World Bank and our department that we launched in May 2022. The gender assessment highlights the largest and most persistent gaps in achieving gender equality remain in the area of NSP Pillar 5, economic empowerment of women and inclusivity, and highlighted levels of gender-based violence and femicide in our country. In addition, this system is informed by South Africa's participation in the UN Generation Equality Forum, where the country is a global co-led on the Economic Justice and Rights Action Coalition, and is a commitment maker in the Gender-Based Violence Action Coalition. Ultimately, what the theme for this year's 16 Days of Activism seeks to do is to strengthen approaches to emphasize social and economic empowerment of women. This seeks to promote and consolidate a number of programs that have been implemented during the year. One of the setbacks and weaknesses we have picked up before I call on Ranji from our department to take over from me is that one day, someday, we would want to have Pillar 5 of our NSP taken fully serious, that private business, government, and all the members of the society give women a chance to walk the streets of South Africa free of fear of how they are just about to become a victim, another victim of what they've not asked for. But what we have also detected is many are women. Many of us are caught up in relationships that really do not work. But because of economic reasons, we are stuck in there. So one of the tactics we thought we should look into is, let's then, as we cry loud that women should get access to economic empowerment and inclusivity and access to financial inclusivity again, that we stage this exhibition at the venue in Nasrec tomorrow, the whole day. Women of all of life's or walks of life, come one, come all. Preparations have been made from the locality to Johannesburg. This is not the end. It is the beginning of saying we have knocked and knocked. We are not saying we are kicking the door, but we are saying we also fought for freedom. That includes the economic freedom. So that those who want to stay in relationships, it's good to be in a relationship. It should be that we choose to be, not because retlaring itakuyini sizothini ubani masingahlali indlala izozibulala. I will pause here, Chair, for a moment so that officials can give details of what they have in mind from all their corners for this 16 days of activism, remembering that this is just weeks after the second summit, presidential summit on gender-based violence. and femicide. I pause here, Chair, and I can answer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And thank you for your advice to say we must stay in a healthy relationship, not to say ritlaring or itakuyini, sizotini. Honorable members, I now give the opportunity to the officials to brief us. Over to you, Department.
Thank you, Chair. And good morning, Chair. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, honorable members of the committee and other colleagues from departments. Chair, I'm going to share my screen.
Can you please show your face for a while? Even if you do have a problem of load shedding, just to see you.
Yeah, let me try, Chair. I don't know if you can see me. That's me. I'm not in Mauritius, Chair. I'm trying to put it on just slide mode, Chair, but it's giving me some problem. Will I be able to continue in this mode, Chair? Thank you. Thank you. Minister has touched a little bit on the background, but I'll just take you through some of the points again. The campaign is an international United Nations endorsed initiative that takes place annually from the 25th of November to the 10th of December. And as Minister has already indicated, the 25th of November is the International Day of No Violence Against Women. And the 10th of December is the International Human Rights Day. This has actually been designated by the UN General Assembly to raise a public awareness on gender-based violence. And this is in line with the resolution 54/134 that was adopted on the 17th of December, 1999. Now, in South Africa, given that we have such heightened levels of violence against women, girls, children, people with disabilities, older women, the LGBTQIA+ community, women migrant workers, women refugees and women asylum seekers, as well as sex workers in the country, we have over the years evolved this 16 days into a full year, 365 days program, so that we can consistently fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. Now, the period between the 25th of November and 10th of December is for a focused reflection on violence and abuse that women and girls are facing in all their diversity. So this year, the campaign is going through a programmatic approach. In other words, we're building on programs that have already been taking place so that these actions that have been committed towards the addressing of gender-based violence and femicide in the country can be emphasized and stressed on. The strategic focus of our campaign is based on, of course, our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, which provides the foundation for human rights and therefore women's rights in the country. But it's also built on national legislation that is seeking to promote and protect the rights and bodily integrity of women. Furthermore, it's based on those international and human rights instruments that we have ratified as a country, which directly relate to the issues of violence against women and girls. It's also emanating from our National Development Plan, Vision 2030, and it's outlined in targets and indicators within our medium-term strategic framework 2019 to 2024. So we are saying that the strategic focus of 16 days must be built on the ongoing interventions across the work of government, civil society, and the private sector, within the context of these 7 national priorities that are contained in the medium-term strategic framework. The 16 days activism campaign, as Minister has indicated, was started off as a communications campaign, awareness on gender-based violence and the murders of women, which we actually want to narrow it down to femicide. The 16 days campaign is continuing to generate these heightened levels of awareness on the effect and impact of GBVF in our society. And in this regard, we've been working with civil society, the private sector, communities, donor partners, businesses within the broader approach of the 365 days of action. And that's taking place through what is known as the GBVF collective. Now, despite all of these efforts, the scourge is continuing relentlessly. It is even taken on unimaginable, brazen and heinous acts of violence and the violation of human rights of women and girls. So the strategic focus is therefore to move away from the rhetoric towards implementation, accountability, and enhancing women's socio-economic opportunities so that they can build their resilience to be able to walk away from incidents of violence or potential incidents of violence, and that they do not become victims of gender-based violence and femicide. Now, building their resilience it's a long-term process, but it's aimed at one of the pillars of the National Strategic Plan, which is Pillar 2 on prevention. If you want to be able to prevent women from becoming, and even children, from becoming victims of gender-based violence and therefore also victims of potential femicide, then you need to be able to give them that ability to stand up, to take a decision and to say, this is not what I want in my life. I can walk away and I can take my children away with me. So that is the underpinning of this year's campaign. Now, the key priorities that we're focusing on is on ensuring accountability for the full implementation of the National Strategic Plan for ending gender-based violence and femicide. And this is building on the provincial summits and the second National Presidential Summit. And then we're also looking at accountability on those cross-cutting policies, laws, and programs which are being implemented to address the violence. But the second priority, as Minister has indicated, is women's economic empowerment and advancement. And why we've decided to put emphasis on this area is that the findings of the South African gender assessment that was done by the World Bank in partnership with the department, and it was launched earlier in May this year by Minister, it shows certain elements that we need to begin to focus on as a country. Now, the gender assessment was actually conducted on 3 dimensions of gender equality, namely the human endowments, which looked at the issues of health and education related to women and girls. The second area was on economic opportunities for women, and the women's voice and agency. Now, the findings overall show 3 important issues. Number 1, the largest and most persistent gap is continuing to remain in the area of economic empowerment. And this is according to the World Economic Forum Gap Report 2021. And then there's also the issue of heightened levels of gender-based violence and femicide in the country, as well as the fact that we've got strong, good laws and policies, but there's very poor or inadequate implementation, and therefore it's not leading to substantive translation of women's empowerment and gender equality. Now, also, as Minister has emphasized, we've based this on our commitments in the UN Generation Equality Campaign, where our president is leading globally on Action Coalition on Economic Justice and Rights. And we are partnering with Kenya, who's leading on the Action Coalition on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls. As the Minister has said, therefore, we structured the theme as Socio-Economic Rights and Empowerment to build women's resilience against gender-based violence and femicide, connect, collaborate, contract. And as was mentioned earlier, the theme is actually drawing from that theme that we had in National Women's Month this year. The idea is to show a continuation of a programmatic approach with emphasis on both the social and the economic empowerment of women so that they can deal with the challenges they are facing on a daily basis. And our intention, to repeat, is that we want to build women's resilience so that they can be able to walk away from those situations of gender-based violence and potential situations of gender-based violence and potential situations of possible femicide. So what activities took place prior to the program? During September, October, we had a number of provincial GBVF summits in preparation towards the national summit. On the 5th and 6th of October, we've had the second Women's Economic Assembly, and this was presided over by the president, and it included women in business. And then on the 1st to the 2nd of November, there was the second presidential gender-based violence and femicide summit. It was presided over by the president, and it was an accountability forum. And these activities are just the high-level activities that took place. Now, going forward during the 16 days, these are some of the things that we will be focusing on. On the 25th, which is tomorrow, is a Women's Trade Expo and, of course, the launch of the 16 days program. It's a national event. But tomorrow as well, Gauteng is holding its men's forum. Then in December, the date is still to be confirmed. The department will in partnership with Northwest Province, hold a men's forum. And in December, once again, we will confirm the date. The department is looking at continuing its program that it started in 2021 on the maintenance issues. And we would like to host it in Mpumalanga this year. And that process is already underway. But there is a detailed calendar of activities, Chair, that outlines provinces and departments' activities for this 16 days period. And it is quite comprehensive, but it is only about those departments and provinces that have actually responded to our call for these activities. We can make that one available, Chair, to the members of the committee. Then on the 25th itself, the Women's Trade Expo is actually a gathering of women businesses across the different sectors. And it's going from women in big business, women SMMEs, cooperatives, and women informal traders. So we've targeted women businesses from across the country. I'll explain that in a little detail in a while. It is taking place at the Nazareth Expo site in Johannesburg. And we are doing this Women's Trade Expo in partnership with provinces, the local municipalities, particularly those in the Gauteng area, in business associations and organizations. Women businesses will not only exhibit their products or what they are doing, but they will also be able to sell their products, as well as then to network and collaborate with other women businesses and potential investors in wanting to work and grow these businesses. So, Chair, it is directly linked to the sub-theme of collaborate, connect, and contract. And that's the underpinning of this whole Trade Expo. Now, our thinking, Chair, is also that this Trade Expo is starting this year And we are undertaking it on a scale that is not too big, that we could manage for this year. But the thinking is that we do this kind of a Women's Trade Expo annually, and it doesn't have to be within the 16-day period. It could be at any point in the year. However, we would also like to precede the national one with holding them in different provinces. And that is emerging from, okay, by the way, we had developed a platform where we were engaging with women businesses. And one of the comments was that it's fully supported from a woman in Eastern Cape, but she was saying that she will be there, she will participate, she can showcase what her business is about, but she's not able to bring her products because she's dealing with chickens, pigs, and eggs. And then there are other women with perishable items. So we took note of that, and we were saying that therefore we need to also take this intervention into the provinces. So what is the status of preparations for tomorrow? We have targeted a participation of 3,000 women. Of this 3,000 women, at the moment, we've reached the figure of 400 women-owned businesses that want to use up a stall, and they want to exhibit. And these are diverse products and services. And how did we make up these 400 women? We have been engaging with provinces. So we've got 7 provinces that have agreed to send a minimum of 10 women businesses whom they are supporting to this business. It's supporting in terms of the transport, the accommodation. So we are co-sharing. We've got 2 provinces that have not responded very positively. Gauteng province is fully involved with us through the Office of the Premier and the Department of Local Economic Development. In fact, they have been working as full partners in this planning. So a lot of the women businesses are also then coming from Gauteng. And then we have mobilized women to come in as buyers. So we've fundamentally, provinces are bringing in women, but we also have worked with Gauteng, and we've got buses that will be picking up women from the different districts so that they could be part of this process for the day. And we have also then put in a few buses from Mpumalanga. So we have mobilized women to come in as buyers, particularly in the sense that we don't want women to come in and display their goods and then go back home with no profit. So that is the thinking. We've been working with national departments who are also supporting us with women in businesses in their sectors. So, for example, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy are bringing in, I think, 10 women CEOs. That is a potential for us in terms of investment and contracting and networking. The Department of Small Business Development is bringing in their women that they have already given those Yoko machines. They've trained those women. So now they will be able to utilize those machines. And then there's other departments like Caucus, who are now bringing in like 20 women from each province. So it's extending our reach into provinces. There are other departments that are coming on board. There are departments who will be providing services at the vicinity, like the Department of Home Affairs, Department of Health, Social Development. I think there's a whole list of them. And then there are departments as well who might showcase the work that they are doing on addressing gender-based violence and femicide. We have been, as a department, partnering very closely with WICONA, the Women's Economic Assembly, and they are bringing women businesses to the expo. In fact, they have taken something like 41 stalls. They've also shared their billboards that they have used for the Wicona one, so that we are now advertising this Women's Trade Expo. They are on the highway and it's leading to Nazareth. And then the last part on the vouchers has unfortunately failed in terms of, it was ABSA Bank, and ABSA Bank is then saying they take a month to process this issue. So they will partner with us on interventions going forward. So unfortunately, we were not able to get those vouchers that we thought would, assist some women in purchasing on that day. So Chair, my last slide is that the program is a full day of exhibitions and sales and networking and collaboration. But also at the same venue, we are doing a formal segment which starts at around 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, which is at the ministerial level, so that the ministers can address, and then we will then go into a process where we embark on side events for the rest of the day. In other words, there will be a number of smaller, shorter workshops aimed at providing some sort of an empowerment to the women in business, and we are being assisted in this regard by Wicona and other organizations that wanted to share what they do. For example, we do have an organization that wants to demonstrate a program that they're running with schools, etc., on how to do self-defense so that you can at least run away if there's potential danger. Then we've got the media, which will be there the whole day. We're starting off with Crossing on Morning Live, and then there will be media interviews for the whole day. The intention was that we want to keep the media at our venue for the whole day. And that was also done on August 1st when we launched Women's Month, and it worked very well. So Chair, I will rest it there, Minister. We'll take whatever necessary questions and respond to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Raji. Honorable members, I would love to propose that if we agreed, we take SAPS and justice. Thereafter, we'll go back to the discussions. Can we agree on that? Honorable members?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed, Chairperson. Yes, Chair.
Thank you so much. Now I will call upon the SAPS. I've learned that the minister and deputy minister are not present. So I'm going to call upon the Deputy National Commissioner, General Mosikili, to take over. General, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to yourself. Good morning to the Minister in the Presidency for Women. Good morning to my fellow colleagues, officials from all the departments that are on the platform. Chairperson, let me start off by apologizing on behalf of the National Commissioner who has tendered a limited apology. He will join us as soon as he concludes the meeting that he is currently busy with. We are going to take the meeting through our presentation. And Chairperson, I must also indicate that we will try to incorporate the other issues as highlighted on the agenda in our presentation, but any other matter that will be outside of the presentation, we will then at the later stage, as allowed by your good self, deal with those issues. Chairperson, we have just listened to the presentation talking to the upcoming 16 days of activism on no violence against women and children, which as the department, we are also going to, as our awareness processes to address gender-based violence and femicide, going to embark on activities and events starting from today in different provinces, and we will have the main launch at the national launch in Gauteng tomorrow in trying to respond to those issues. Chairperson, we were directed by your meeting to go back and populate information to come and brief the meeting and advise the meeting on the issues relating to, amongst others, the DNA deadlock and how we're dealing with and how we're going to be dealing with going forward. We are going to be addressing the meeting on the issues that we are having or plans that we are having in addressing the deadlock and how we're going to go forward after we have dealt with the deadlock. That will also include how we're dealing with the cases of gender-based violence and femicide as the police, and our collaboration with other departments that we are working hand in hand in addressing the deadlock cases, including that we are addressing the cases in a prioritized manner to ensure that those that are already on the court roll are finalized as speedily as possible. How we are dealing with the victim-friendly rooms or victim-friendly facilities at different places. Chairperson, maybe as a startup to also indicate that we do have stations or still have police stations that do not have this victim-friendly facility, but we are having a plan in place to address those. That is a 3-year plan and a medium term that we are going to be embarking on ensuring that we do have enough victim-friendly facilities. However, I need to indicate upfront that where we do not have physical room, there are plans in place to make sure that victims of gender-based violence, when they arrive at the police stations, are attended to, including the use of other facilities of our sister departments, as well as our collaboration with other NGOs that have facilities that we do not have as and when they happen. Chairperson, I am going to request to call upon Lieutenant General Mohlala, who is the Divisional Commissioner of Policing in the South African Police Service, who is a lead division, to lead us with the presentation. But as we go on, Chairperson, we will then use the officials that are in the platform to address the questions that will be coming. In our midst, we do have the 9 provincial commissioners as well as relevant divisional commissioners that are part of this deliberation. Chairperson, I'm handing over to General Mohlala with your approval to lead us with the presentation. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General. Over to you, General Mohlala.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson.
Good morning.
I'm fine.
General Mohlala,
I'm sorted.
you're not audible.
Don't worry. Thanks for your service. Yeah.
General Mohlala.
Yes, hello, Chairperson. Can you hear me?
Yes, for now I do, but there are some background. Can you please tell those that are closer to you to switch off their mic?
No, I'm alone here, Chairperson. I think there are some of our guests that have unmuted, Chairperson.
Okay. Oh, Honorable Suela, can you please switch off your mic?
Sorry, that.
General, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, Minister and Deputy Ministers on the platform, all generals and senior managers within the both the police and all government departments. Protocol observed. Honorable Chairperson, our areas, which is purpose, background, identified focus areas of the multi-party women's caucus, and then the conclusion. We can go to the next slide. And the purpose, Chairperson, is to present to the multi-party women's caucus meeting, which is today, in line with the National Progress Report on the National Strategic Plan to address gender-based violence and femicide. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think on the background, Honorable Chairperson, is that we were requested as SAPS to come and present before the multi-party women's caucus. We can go to the next slide. The identified focus areas, Honorable Chairperson and members, establishment of victim-friendly rooms at police stations, progress regarding ensuring an adequate supply of rape kits, progress regarding training of personnel, particularly in terms of their capacity to deal adequately with GBVF victims, an assessment of progress with eliminating DNA backlogs and interventions to keep the pace and standards, the SAPS interventions to ensure the successful implementation of the criminal law, Act 37 of 2030. Next slide. On the next slide, Honorable Chairperson, it will deal with the progress in the establishment of victim-friendly rooms at police stations. Honorable Chairperson, up to date, now we have established victim-friendly rooms at the following number of police stations, 1,019. Without dedicated VFRs, but the process is proceeding with our our public works department to ensure that those non-devolved stations, we address them in terms of multi-term plan. But as indicated by General Mosikidi, we are actually, where there are no VFRs, there is an involvement of the NGOs and also our sister departments. The breakdown, Honorable Chairperson, of the stations that are without dedicated VRs in the provinces, the highest number there, we have Eastern Cape with 37, followed by KZN 29, and then Free State with 24, and then Northern Cape 15, Northwest 10, and both Gauteng and Mpumalanga, Limpopo 16. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you very much. Honorable Chairperson and members, the next slide is dealing with establishing of VFRs at police stations. This is a medium-term plan to establish victim-friendly rooms per province, which is the total of 139. We can see that for 2022-2023, we will be focusing on the following stations, which is 20. And then for 2023-2024 financial year, we'll focus on 60 police stations. And then for 2024-2025, we'll focus on 59 police stations. But part of the arrangement to actually address as many police stations as possible to have victim-friendly rooms. Our division supply chain management is looking into that arrangement. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, is dealing just the process status on the placement of victim-friendly rooms, and to indicate that the 139 police stations, as we have indicated in the previous slides, that they are non-devolved, and therefore that's why we're involving National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure whereby jointly we are actually addressing this process going forward. And then there is a term contract for the placement of victim-friendly rooms, which is currently under evaluation and expected to be awarded in the BAC, Bid Adjudication Committee, by the end of November 2022. 20 stations are targeted to be achieved by the end of March. Process will depend on the awarding of the contract. Therefore, we are focusing more on ensuring that the term contract is awarded. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson, is dealing with the establishment of gender-based violence desks at police stations. SAPS established gender-based violence desks at the police stations by 31st March of 2022, which was to assist in ensuring that the victims of gender-based violence actually receive priority service delivery from SAPS members at our police stations or facilities. The GBV desk is an engagement platform at police station level for the victims of and families of gender-based violence. And this is not necessarily a physical desk, but necessarily services that are rendered by a team. So have been trained, and the categories of those members, it includes as well also the GBV, the coordinators, the standby detectives, the relief commanders, the station coordinators of victim empowerment and domestic violence and coordinators, the sector commanders, which are operational commanders, communication officers, and other members as deemed necessary by the station commander where resources are available. And we also have actually developed a guideline which will also ensure that members at all these police stations or our service points can actually make reference to, so that it guides and ensure a standardized approach to rendering service to the victims of gender-based violence. And then all members of the GBV desk to be appointed in writing and are addressing gender-based violence. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, is dealing with addressing the quantity of quantity ordered versus the delivery of our stock within our facilities. We can see that, Honorable Chairperson, not sure whether, yes, our stock levels in terms of quantity ordered versus quantity delivered, we can see that outstanding, Honorable Chairperson, for DB is 38,690, and then for delivered, that is 314,968. This is for DB. For D1, stock levels, outstanding is 0, delivered is 51538, and ordered is 51538. For D7, outstanding is 0, and delivered is 30330, and also delivered and then ordered as well is also 30330, meaning it's 100% that has been delivered. We can go to the next slide. On the next slide, Honorable Chairperson, it deals with stock availability at provisional stores as of 11 November 2022, starting with assault. For Pretoria is 36,631 stock levels available. And for D7 for Pretoria as well, which is kit collection pediatric sexual assault, is 25,680. And then for Pretoria as well, for DB, which is kit collection swap reference system, it is 62,523. KZN, D1 is 6,706. D7, 3,518. And then for DB, 110. For Western Cape, it's for D1, 1,410. D7 is 608. And then for DB, it's 7,800. The Honorable Chairperson for D1 is 44,747, D7 29,806, for DB 70,502. We can go to the next slide. On the next slide, Honorable Chairperson, is provision of crime kits. As of this is kits requisitions versus issued for 2022 and to 2023. We can see that there are provinces that have placed their demands, all 9 provinces. And starting with Eastern Cape, they have the demand was for 60,500. And then so far, 93% was issued. And they also have a stock availability in the province as on the 11th of November of 10,177. Free State issued so far for Free State is 70%, and then they have stock availability in the province of as of 11 November of 2,756. Gauteng demand was 62,820, and then percentage issued is 62% for Gauteng. And then stock availability is 10,341. KZN demand 757, sorry. And then percentage issued 74% for KZN. And then stock availability for KZN is 49,421. And then Limpopo, the demand was 15,000, and then 100% was issued for Limpopo. And then the stock availability for Limpopo is 4,868. In Mpumalanga, the demand was 20. Availability of stock from Mpumalanga is 10,581. Northwest, demand is 19,675. Percentage issued is 100% for Northwest, and the stock levels available is 9,669. For Northern Cape, demand was 14,313. Percentage issued 100%. Stock availability is 8,345. Western Cape, the demand was 44,526, and then percentage issued 67%, and then stock availability for Western Cape is 5,194. Therefore, the total demand was 307,220, and the issued percentage nationally it's 116,576. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, D1, is focusing more on D1 collection kits. We can see that all provinces have put their demands except for Mpumalanga, but Mpumalanga still have a stock availability of 5,563. And the total demand nationally was 70,853, and the percentage that has been issued is 100%, and then stock availability nationally is 62,779. We can go to the next slide. Next slide is D7, which is kit collection, pediatric sexual assaults, and then the demand percentage issued is 100%. Stock availability nationally is 52,197. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, is dealing with the training of our members. Our training is categorized into both proactive and reactive. And then on proactive training interventions, it deals with the dignity, diversity and policing, which is a new course, human rights and policing, victim empowerment training programs, children and youth at risk, first responder to sexual offences learning program. And then the reactive training interventions focuses on vulnerable group, which is an entry level, vulnerable group, post-basic, basic course in hostage and suicide negotiation, family violence, child protection and sexual offences, domestic violence learning programs, investigating officers, and then resolving crime skills programs, the taking of buccal samples. Next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson, it focuses on the training of members to adequately deal with GBVF cases. We can see that trained members for dignity, diversity, and policing, trained members is 175, and those that have been declared competent after training is 175. And then when you go to human rights and policing, those that were trained is 19,567. Those declared competent are 19,199. And then victim empowerment training programs, trained members 23,294, competent 23,016. Children and youth at risk, trained 12,653, trained 28,295, competent 28,173. Next slide. Next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, is just a continuation of those training interventions. Trained members for vulnerable children, entry level, is 79,903. Trained competent members, 79,808. Then trained for vulnerable children, post-basic, is 42,642. Trained, competent, 42,505. Basic course in hostage and suicide negotiations, trained members 307, competent, declared competent 277. Family violence, child protection and sexual offences, trained is 3,135, competent 3045. Competent 46901. For psychologically motivated crime course, trained is 476 and competent 474. Then for sexual offences course for investigating officers, 9,999, and then competent was 9,959. And then for resolving of crime skills program, trained is 18,687, competent 17,901. Then taking of buccal samples, trained is 42,654 and competent is 42,621. Next, let's go to the next slide. The next slide deals with the elimination of the backlog, Chairperson. On the first slide is the capacitation of the forensic science laboratories. A total of 73 contractors are still being utilized in the business value chain with an intent of absorption into the work stream prior to the end of the term contracts. And this contract is ending December 2022. The process of absorption is at an advanced stage. The selection has been finalized, waiting approval. Furthermore, 34 posts of forensic analysts to capacitate Eastern Cape DNA expansion is 28. And then Western Cape biology is 6. Will be filled shortly, waiting just for the approval. We can go to the next slide. On the next slide, Honorable Chairperson members, is the additional equipment procured for FSL. And then we can see that there are three categories of equipment that were procured for Western Cape FSL, which is 8 thermoshakers, 10 centrifuges, 2 genetic analysis were acquired. For Gauteng FSL, 12 thermoshakers, and then 12 centrifuges, and then crime index CI lane, 3 genetic analyzers were also acquired. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson, it's just indicating there. I will not necessarily go to all the contracts, but we have a contract management strategy in place, which is led by our division supply chain management. And then part of it is to ensure that we manage the contracts so that we don't wait for them to expire. Part of the plan is to ensure that we already well in advance in future will have all these contracts that are about to expire, that we have processes in place to ensure that we mitigate. So those listed contracts are the contracts that are currently in place at the Forensic Science Laboratory and will be proactively managed, and the processes are in place to monitor and evaluate their so that we don't run the risk of them expiring. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson, deals with the progress made with the finalization of case exhibits entries. And then it's just dealing with the first bullet is dealing with the finalization rate, which reflect in percentages, represent entries registered versus entries finalized per quarter, including those on hand which are backlogged. And then further, it indicates that a finalization rate above 100% indicates that backlogged entries are also being finalized. This approach is used for monitoring purposes until such time as the has increased progressively from 21.48% in Q1 of 2021-22 to 160.75% in Q1 of financial year of 22-23, and currently is at 155.84%. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson, we can see that starting from my far left to the far right is that from Q1, we can see that there's been a progress of finalizing of the case exhibits entries, whereby in Q1, for example, of 2021, we can see that there has been a good inroads that were made. The far right, on the far right, we can see that those that have been finalized is 155.87% as of today. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, is just a graph which is showing progress made with the elimination of the total DNA backlog. We can see from the starting, we started at 241,152, but currently as it stands, as on the 2022-11 of the 14th of November this year, we are currently standing at 71,287. We can go to the next, meaning so far it has been reduced by more than 50%, the backlog. Then progress made with the elimination of the backlog. Honorable Chairperson and members, backlog status per region. We can see that as of the 14th of November 2022, Eastern Cape still have 3,255, KZN 2,788, Gauteng 48,261, Western Cape 16,983. Then the total is 71,287. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, is progress made with the elimination of the ring-fenced DNA backlog. And then status of the ring-fenced DNA backlog, initial ring-fenced backlog of 180,191. We can see that biology ring-fenced backlog status per region as on the 14th of November 2020, Gauteng 6,083, and then Western Cape 1,008. The total is 7,169. We can go to the next slide. On the next slide, Honorable Chairperson, there is a NPA and SAPS project which was established in July to prioritize those cases as per court directed request. There is a total of 20,747 cases were prioritized for analysis. And then we can see that the breakdown court requests for DNA reports per province from August 2021 to November 2022, we can see for Eastern Cape, the request 963 that were analyzed. Gauteng North 993, Gauteng South 2580, KZN 1914, Limpopo 1662, Mpumalanga 1486, Northern Cape 1042, Northwest 1564, Western Cape 6006, and the total there is 19,556. The total request for July, the previous one was for August 2021 to November 2022, and then for July 2021, it was 1,191. And then, therefore, overall total request for DNA processing as per court priority, it was 20,747. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, DNA expansion of the Eastern Cape, forensic site laboratories in process, presently busy with the validation of equipment. A total of 22 forensic analysts appointed in the Eastern Cape FSL biology laboratory are currently under training in the full analysis of DNA. Posts for additional 28 forensic analysts were advertised and are currently busy with the selection process. And then from February 2023, the Eastern Cape FSL will go live, and optimal processing will be from the 1st of April 2023. Relocation of KZN Natal, KZN FSL from Amazimtoti to Durban Central. There were challenges in that FSL facility because of the issue of flooding. Space and FSL. And then the project plan will be finalized between SAPS Supply Chain Management and the NDPWI. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chairperson, deals with the interventions of addressing criminal, the implementation of the Criminal Law Amendment Act. And then the Act has been implemented since the commencement date on the 31st of January 2015. The provision of compulsory taking of buccal samples of persons arrested for offences referred to in Schedule 8 of Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977 came into operation on 31 January 2022. However, an instruction was issued to implement the compulsory taking of buccal samples in cases involving Schedule 8 offences from first homicides, certain sexual offences, and also, for instance, which are your rape, your sexual assault, sexual offences against children or persons who are mentally disabled. You can go to the next slide. The next slide deals with the update on the SAPS interventions to ensure the successful implementation of criminal law, forensic procedures of 37 of 2013. The National Forensic DNA Database has been established. In terms of that, this act, the National Forensic DNA Database must be established to use successfully for investigative as an investigative tool in the identification of serial rapists and murderers and multiple offenders. The National Forensic DNA Database of more than 1 million active forensic DNA profiles. Since the inception of the Act to date, comparison sessions of the National Forensic DNA Database have yielded the following results: 16,010 DNA person to crime of known persons forensic DNA investigative leads, 9,150 DNA crime to crime, unknown persons, forensic DNA investigative leads. The division Human Resource Development, which is our training division, has trained a total of 41,650 authorized persons to take buccal samples. Next slide. On the next slide, Honorable Chairperson and members, is just a conclusion to say, as the South African Police Service, working together with all relevant stakeholders in an integrated and multidisciplinary approach, and femicide in support of the victims. With that said, I then submit. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and members.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Mutala, for the update. We're now proceeding to justice. But before we proceed, honorable members, I think the documents that we received yesterday, it has been amended a little bit, the one from SAPS. So I was communicating with Mandy that immediately she received the recent one, she will send us that document. Thank you very much. We're now proceeding to justice. I've learned that Honorable Minister and the Deputy Minister, they are not with us. But there is Advocate Kambula, who's going to give us a briefing on behalf of Justice Department. Advocate Kambula, over to you.
Honorable Chairperson, before Advocate Kambula comes in, may I come in, please?
Pleasure.
Thank you. This is Ms. Pillay from the Department of Justice as well. I'm the DDG Legislative Development and Legal Services. I've been requested by the DG to stand in for him and to introduce the presentation and Advocate Kambule, and to sincerely apologize for them not being available. And so I was just requested to open this presentation and ask Advocate Kambule to take us further. So over to you, Advocate Kambule. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Pillay, and thanks, Chairperson, and the honorable members, and the ministers and the deputy ministers who are on the platform, as well as the senior officials from the various departments. We appreciate the opportunity presented to us by the Caucus that we share and share the accountability in the areas that have been highlighted for us. So my presentation, therefore, will be just be focusing specifically on those issues. Let me just take off this. All right, so first, Chair and honorable members, is just to start by saying that in 2018, when women under the banner of the hashtag total shutdown, one of the demands that they presented was that we do have the sexual offences courts, but these are the sexual offences courts that are not recognized by any piece of legislation. So then they placed a demand that we have the statutory sexual offences courts. The department received the command and responded positively. Now, we do have Section 55, capital A of the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act of 2007, which then gives recognition, that is the statutory recognition to the sexual offences courts. And it then empowers the minister to designate by notice in the Gazette the courts where the sexual offences courts must be established, and they can be at any level of the court in terms of this provision, meaning that it is possible now to have a sexual offences court at a high court division. It's also possible to have the sexual offences court at the regional division, which is the current status right now, and it is also possible to have the sexual offences courts at the district court level. That is where then the bail applications are heard, but not to say that they will be adjudicated at that level. So this is where we are. And also in terms of the Presidential Summit Declaration against Gender-Based Violence and Femicide and the NSP, then there's also an indicator there that requires the department then to make the sexual offences courts statutory. So this provision started then to be operational on the 7th of February 2020. And it also has a provision there that requires the minister to develop regulations relating to sexual offences courts. And now the regulations are replacing what we had before that we were calling the Mattso Sexual Offences Court model. So meaning that now the sexual offences court model has been given now a higher status of recognition in the form of regulations that give them that catalogue of support services that each and every sexual offences court, for it to be called a sexual offences court, must provide those services, so that we provide a victim-centric justice for our victims of sexual offences. Now, this slide is giving the caucus the depiction of where we are. First is to say that on the 31st of October 2022, the minister, in consultation with the Chief Justice and after the consultation with the National Director of Public Prosecution, as required by the Act, issued a regulation gazette, which was then designating the courts for regional division where the sexual offences courts must be established. But then what happened is that on the 2nd of November, the operation of the notice was withdrawn so that the department is able then to reconsider the wording of Section 55, capital A of the Act. But I would like then the caucus and the Honourable Chair and the Honourable members to note that there's a provision, Section 55, capital A, subsection 5, which then does not preclude any court with a jurisdiction from dealing with sexual offences sexual offences matters, if it is not yet established as a sexual offences court. So meaning that all the 299 courts for regional divisions have been hearing these matters. So there is not a situation where we have found that then because of the fact that the regulations and notice, gazette notice has been withdrawn, it doesn't mean that the work stopped. So it's still continuing. And also the Mattso Courts that we have, which we stopped then to implement after the introduction of Section 55, capital A, are also there providing these services. And now we have a capacity of 102 of these courts that are nationwide, spread nationwide. And then out of those right now, as the Act says now, is that for a court to be a sexual offences court, it must be compliant, fully compliant with the regulations that give then that catalogue of support services that must be at the sexual offences court. So now we have 83 courts that we have made compliant with the regulations. So the 83 courts that are compliant with the regulations are also are courts that have been drawn from the Mattso Courts and now be lifted up so that they give then support services to older persons and also to persons with disabilities, because now the regulations have actually closed those gaps that we had with the Mattso Sexual Offences Courts model. Now, moving forward, is this then the next slide is giving you the national spread of all these courts. Now, the 106 Mattso Sexual Offences Courts, that is as at the 31st of January 2020, and then we also have then the courts that are in line with the sexual offences courts.
An hour ago.
Bertha's iPhone, can you please switch off your mic? You may proceed, Advocate.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And also the Tutuzela Care Centers, because the model for sexual offences courts works so well with the Tutuzela Care Centers. It is the Tutuzela Care Centers that are feeding into the sexual offences courts. But I would like to say, Chair, that as of yesterday, now the Tutuzela Care Centers have been increased to 62. But out of the 62, the volume of 62 Tutuzela Care Centers, it is 51 that are aligned to the 83 courts that are compliant with the regulations. So we are moving then with the NPA to ensure that all the Tutuzela Care Centers are aligned with the sexual offences courts. Now, the next slide is just giving the Caucus the support services, the basket of support services that are in the sexual offences courts. Before testimony, what we provide information service, and that information service, it also includes now in terms of the regulations that we must provide information that is accessible to older persons and also to persons with disabilities. So we also provide then the private waiting services, which is a private waiting service that is for the adult and also for children as well, conducive to children, so that children do not know that they are in the courtroom. We don't want them to have that feeling at all. So some, they get in and exit without knowing that they have actually been testifying. And then we also provide then the pre-trial emotional containment service. This is intended then to ensure that we don't place on the witness box a witness that is not emotionally ready to testify. And we also then provide then disability services and include reasonable accommodation of a guide dog. That would be, it's also, we have a space in our waiting area that is for the guide dog. And also we provide then court support services, working closely with the civil society organization. And I would also like to say that our regulations relating to sexual offences court also give recognition to support that is provided by civil society organizations. They are called the court supporters in terms of the regulations. Now, during the testimony, then we provide then the language interpretation services, and now we also have now the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Act, which is part of the 3 GBV, which recognizes a sign language, the demonstrations and all that. So it's to accommodate also those ones who have not gone to school to learn the sign language. Now it's recognized by our law. The private testifying room, where then they testify outside the courtroom and outside the physical presence of the accused, and also the intermediary services and the use of the anatomically directed dolls for children, because some of the children do not have the language for a sexual act. So then they are able then to demonstrate using those anatomically directed dolls as assistive tools for them and also for persons with mental disabilities. Then after this, the victim has testified, we take them back then to the court preparation officer, where then they get the post-trial emotional containment service, so as to deal with them, because some of them, when they testify, they will have the flashbacks, it will be taking them back to that pain. So this service then is ensuring that then we don't take out of the system a victim who is broken, who is injured. And if then this service is not enough, then we refer to the Department of Social Development, where then they're getting then a trauma debriefing. And then we also provide the witness fee service, which includes then food and travel allowance. And now we are in the process, Chair, of amending our policy here so that it includes then the provision of data, because we have the criminal related and related matters amendment act, which I said previously that it is part of the 3 GBV amendment act. So it is an act now that introduces virtual proceedings. So meaning that it's going to be possible, it's already possible, because this act got commenced, became operational on the I think it became operational on the 5th of August 2022. So what it means is that now, you know, the witnesses, victims, they can actually request to testify virtually, and also the referral and so on. Now, moving this is just to give you that visual depiction of these courts. We have made them to have furniture that is standardized, so that people, when they enter into these rooms, they know that this is a sexual offences court. So it has all of these, the screen for the magistrate, very close, that monitor that is then enabling the magistrate to be able to see how the victim, the demeanor of the victim, and the victim is testifying in the private testifying room, which is adjacent the courtroom. And all of these children, they sit there, they don't even know that they are in the court environment. Now, this next slide, it is just to give the members the court performance, but to give you the annual performance. And this is the information that has been received from the NPA, just to show that harsher sentences are already imposed in cases of sexual violence. So this is the performance of the Tutuzela care centers working closely with the sexual offences courts. As you will see it there, that we have, we have in 2020, 2021, the conviction rate increased from 73.9 to 76.7, and the life imprisonment sentences imposed in sexual offences matters increased from 141 to 201. And I would also like to say, Chairperson, that the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Act, the one that became operational on the 5th of August, also it tightens the sentences imposed in these cases. For instance, in serial rape cases and gang rape cases and sexual offences cases perpetrated against children and perpetrated in domestic relationships. So in those cases, courts now are empowered to impose life imprisonment sentences. Now, if you go down at the bottom, that shows then the top 3 sexual offences courts, sexual offences matters registered by our courts. And you will see there that the top 73.0.9 of the caseload of sexual offences registered in our courts. The total caseload of sexual offences matters registered by our courts, it was 73.09 was sexual offences, was rape. So what it means is that now as a country, the epicenter rape has become the epicenter of GBVF matters perpetrated in the country, and then followed by sexual assault and the statutory rape, meaning that we still need to protect our children against sexual violence because it appeared as the top three, as number 3 in the top 3 offenses that we extrapolated from our statistics. Now, the second point that we are requested to present on is on backlog cases. I would like to say, Chair, that the incidents or the challenges that build into case backlog, is the result of a number of systematic deficiencies that are contributed by a number of stakeholders. So now we need just to look at these figures against that backdrop. And also to say that currently in the country, we do not have a specific crime called gender-based violence and femicide. We have been requested by the Caucus to give then the presentation of the backlog cases in gender-based violence and femicide. As a department, currently, we are collecting statistics for sexual offences and domestic violence matters, and also other offences that are related to that. So this presentation is going to be limited to these top 2 of the family of gender-based violence and femicide. But I would also like to say that we are in a process then of identifying from the common law offences and also from the statutory offences, all those that contribute to what we are calling the gender-based violence and femicide. So a task team has been set that is looking into that. That will also be helping us as a country. Oh my goodness, I thought that my apologies, Chair. Okay. My apologies, Chair. So now we would like to have a national repository of cases of gender-based violence and femicide, but those cases need to be defined first as to what is it when we are talking as a country of gender-based violence. What is it that we're talking about? What are the offenses that build into what we are calling gender-based violence and femicide? We are in that process. Now, for sexual offenses, the pending caseload as I speak right now, it is 17, that is as at yesterday, it is 17,566. That is the caseload that is before our courts of sexual offenses. Then out of that caseload, 6,397 are defined in terms of our policies as the backlog cases. And then out of the 36.42% of the 17,566 backlog cases, then we saw then the drop by 3% as since August. So meaning that the courts then are moving towards reducing the backlog cases. Then I would also like to say that then out of the 2,673 cases that have been finalized thus far, NPA reported that 1,994 of those cases were finalized with a conviction. So as at 30th June 2022, NPA has thus far achieved a conviction rate of 75.1%. And then also as it has been presented by my colleague from SAPS, that also NPA reported that they have received from SAPS the DNA report for sex crimes that amounted to 20,834. And those cases then are also now in the process then of being included in the case roll. Now coming then to domestic violence now particularly in criminal matters, because Chairperson, in civil matters, we don't have a backlog cases anymore. We introduced in 2020 the 100 days rapid result initiative that was intended to clean up the system of all the pending cases of protection orders. And we succeeded to do that. And we created now a performance standard of 90 days that all those protection orders, when they are contested, must be finalized within 90 days. And an interim protection order must be provided if there is enough evidence to justify that. It must be issued on the same day of the application. So now I'm going to focus then on the criminal matters that relate to domestic violence. As at yesterday, we have a caseload of 3,856 criminal matters that are pending. And out of those, 348 are identified as backlog cases, meaning that these are the cases that have moved beyond the 90 days, the performance standard of 90 days that we have set. And also 1,762 criminal domestic violence cases were finalized with a verdict, and 284 GBV related femicide cases were also finalized with a verdict. This is the information that we received from NPA, because NPA is collecting the cases, the femicide cases statistics. And we also then, they also report that 271 of the 284 cases finalized with a verdict, so were finalized with a conviction. So 281 of the 284 cases were finalized with a verdict, with a conviction. And then 221 verdicts handed down in intimate partner femicide cases. So meaning that we had 221 cases where then the parties had an intimate relationship that were finalized with a verdict. And 206 of the 221 cases finalized with a verdict were finalized with a conviction. So meaning that the NPA then thus far has recorded a 93.2 conviction rate in cases of intimate partner femicide. Now, coming then to decriminalization. Chair, there is, as you know, we have been invited to report on the status of progress in terms of the status report that was put together by the South African Law Reform Commission on this issue, the investigation that they conducted. So the department received the report, that is the minister, and thereafter the deputy minister held a number of stakeholder consultations that were including the sex work sector, the religious sector, the traditional leadership sector, and other civil society organizations and the relevant departments. And from that engagement, now the department then informed by the resolutions taken from all of those engagements, now they've put together a bill. So it's not, there's not going to be a new bill that will be introduced, meaning that a new act that will be focusing on this, because we have Section 11 of the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act, which then which criminalizes, all right? It criminalizes the sale and purchase of adult sexual services. So then to speed up the process, so now what the department is doing with this bill that has been drafted, it seeks then to repeal first the Sexual Offences Act of 1957, which also criminalizes sexual sales, and also then Section 11 of the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act of 2007, so is to ensure then that they are responding to the aspirations of the people of South Africa, and also in line with the Constitution as well. So what is it that has been done thus far? And we have put in the dates so that you can see that there's progress in this matter. So on the 24th of November, 2022, this bill will be considered by the JCPS Cabinet Committee. And then we are planning, this is the plan, that on the 30th of November, then it will be served to served in cabinet, and also with the request, then it is published then for public comments. So this is where we are then in terms of speeding up this process, so as to ensure that then we are compliant with what the Constitution requires us, and also then the aspirations of the people of South Africa. Now, the next then for us, that what is it that we are doing in order to address then the dysfunctions that are there? First is to say here that I have mentioned here that we don't have yet an offense. There's no offense. Let me not even say yet, because I don't see a possibility of us having a specific offense called GBVF, because that will have a very wide definition, because we've got a number of criminal acts in South Africa that constitute GBVF, which is that task team that I talked about, which chairperson is a task team that I'm chairing. It does have the judiciary from the different levels of the courts, and also it has the NPA representation, the legal aid South Africa is also represented, and we have also included the civil society organizations, particularly those ones that will usually take us to court when there's something that is wrong with our law. So they are part of this process, and all that we're looking at is to say that, and let's define for our country what constitutes GBVF, and it's a process that we are intending to finalize before the end of this financial year. And from this then we will have what we call the National Repository for Cases of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, and this is one of the indicators that are in the NSP. Now, secondly, we also have a limitation, as I have explained, that Section 55, capital A, sexual offences courts have not yet been established. All right, they were established just for a few days, and then later the designation was withdrawn. But I would like here the honourable members to know that the delayed designation of this court has not in any way hindered the courts from dealing with sexual offences matters. As I have reported that 299 of our courts are hearing these matters. And the NPA has also reported that from that capacity, now as at 30th June, we are standing at 75.1% in terms of conviction rate. Now, the issue of the backlog cases I have mentioned here, but then what is it that we're doing to address this? We have put together a criminal backlog action plan, which gives priority to GBVF matters. And also, there is also an engagement that is also started of our deputy ministers to engage with all the stakeholders, so as to ensure that they include the indicator in their APPs that will be addressing the systematic deficiencies in their spaces that contributed to backlog cases in our courts. So, but currently the department has moved ahead and created an APP indicator to monitor the management of backlog cases. But it's not going to work if it's going to be done by us alone, because this is a collective problem that is emanating from all these systematic deficiencies from the different departments. And the other thing that I think that this presentation will be incomplete if I don't talk to, it is the constant breaking of the sexual offences system. We call it the sexual offences system, but it is that dual view as CCTV system. So what we have done then as a department, and as I have said that, we have the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Act that permits virtual proceedings. So now we have made a request then to courts to ensure that if there is a system that is not working, three things must be done. One is to report then to data-centric, because we have appointed now a service provider that is responsible for this. And during that time, that waiting period that has been is even short as a couple of days. And then they must not postpone that case. They must check with the victim the possibility of the victim testifying virtually, and so as to ensure that we don't have cases that get postponed because of that. And now to ensure that data-centric complies with the requirements of the department in terms of quality and speed. There's a task team that has been established with data-centric that meets every Wednesday to monitor the progress in terms of all these systems that have been broken. So this is basically what we have been asked to present, Chair, and I believe that we have covered it all. Which brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Advocate Kambule, for your presentation. And thanks once more to General Muhlala and Ranji. Honorable members, let me also acknowledge the presence of some of our executive. I've seen that Minister Zulu is with us. Minister Maite, we saw her presenting. I've seen also the presence of our DMs, DM Magazi, DM Soinchu, DM Nomalungelo Gina, and DM Regina Mahaule. Your presence is highly appreciated. Thank you very much. Honorable members, we are now going to engage the presentation. Those that want to ask questions or seek clarity, seeking questions, or the comments, can I get a show of hands? Mandy, you'll assist me. Oh, I see the hand of Honorable Miyoko. Honorable Flengwa. Honorable Miyoko, you can start.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to colleagues and our presenters. Chair, mine is to welcome the three presentations that were made, and also the 16 days of activism program, Chair. One can see that there is progress in terms of the implementation of the national strategic framework, and also acknowledge that whilst there is presentation, there's a long way to go. This morning, when I look at statistics in terms of what is happening in South Africa, one can say that when you look at statistics over a period of 1,035 days, the media stories that we normally check and read about are saying that there are 482 murdered women and girls, average of 2 murders a day. That was recorded in 14 April 2021. An average of 23 people that are shot and killed, which says something about the guns recently in South Africa. Every day, according to the annual country's crime statistics on the 16th of July. One can still say that there's a lot that needs to be done. And when you look at the fundamentals, the root cause of all the issues or the social ills that we have in the country, when you look at the sustainable development goals, you can still see that there's a lot that needs to be done, being of no poverty, zero hunger, issues of health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, issues of decent work and economic and economic growth, affordable and clean energy. You still see that there's a lot of challenges, and it's like our planning, in terms of our planning, it's on short-term basis. We plan where we'll have a short programs that will address immediate issues. And also when you look at the presentation in terms of 16 days of activism, one can really appreciate that we will have that conversation with men. But what you need to do, Chair, what I think it's almost lacking in our planning, our programs are on short-term basis. If we can have a year plan that will say, this is the program in the next 4 or 5 years, this is how we'll be able to address certain issues. And in that program of engaging men, where one can also pick up the principles of changing the mindset of boys, because what we have seen and what we have observed that boys must experience responsive care themselves, especially from both and home, and boys from home and from in the classroom, which also involves a Department of Education in this regard, where it brings us to quality education. And boys must recognize the current social system as unjust. By realizing this, they might also develop a feminist consciousness amongst themselves. And Chair, the other issue, if we really and truly want to end gender-based violence in our country, when you look at the level of illiteracy in South Africa, in 2020, South African adult illiteracy rate was 10%, and it has improved on 2.1 for 2019. But currently, the reality is that we are at 3.7 million of higher illiteracy. I think if our focus also should be how do we reskill and how do we provide ABET program in provinces where there are highest number of illiterates, and make sure that the provisioning of quality ABET programs also it's been carried and it also addresses our challenge. Chair, there are so many things that one can talk to in relation to gender-based violence and femicide. There are plans that we can come up with, not short-term plans, but long-term plans on how do we deal with this. And by dealing with elimination of gender-based violence and femicide, it will be as good as attaining the 17 sustainable development goals that we have set ourselves to achieve. I think if we can really go that way and encourage, maybe, Chair, this is a good program of Caucus, of Women's Caucus, and encourage that we maybe extend our Caucus to provinces, including local government, your local sphere of government, your district municipalities, where whatever that we share at this particular level, they also have information, and that on its own can make a greater and a better impact for all of us, because all of us must be mentors. All of us must stop sexual harassment. All of us must educate ourselves. All of us must understand the issues of gender-based violence and femicide. And we engage on such programs. We engage on empowerment programs. The reality is that if people are not working, you'll always find women trapped in a situation of saying, because of my economic inequality, I will not be able to move out of this particular relationship. And also welcome the sexual offense courts that they are establishing. However, the proposal would be that if they can work 24/7, And the manner in which we were dealing with the pandemic, the last pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, however one wish, can be the manner in which we deal with gender-based violence and femicide in the country, where you are able to pick up your hotspot, where you are able to make intervention timelessly, and where you are also able to say, this is how we are going to move forward to pre-plan for the next activity. If we can deal with it like the manner in which we dealt with the COVID-19, I think it will also help a great deal. But also, Chair, the family structures are very important. Youth parenting and parenting in general. The most fundamentals, we have lost the most fundamentals. If we can go back to the basics, maybe recruit more people, more women, more young people, more young boys, and recruit them and train them on even paralegal issues, because in most instances, women are afraid to go and open their cases on the basis of a lack of understanding of the laws of the country, of which is something that we may need to have conversation on. We may need to partner with the Department of Correctional Justice, also in terms of that, with the police stations, with those that are being trained on gender-based violence issue, Chair. There's a lot that needs to be done. The issue of DNA is still a problem in various police stations. You still have those who still understand the issues of gender-based violence in those police stations. However, working together, we can make a great deal and impact. And maybe on the issue of skills, utilize also a CETA, Madam Chair, utilize CETA and see what are the programs that we can be able to train and empower our people through them, so that we are able to have more people who are educated on the subject matter, because the reality of
Okay, so
Masiko Jele, who's that one? Please, can you switch off your mic? Thank you.
As I conclude, Chair, I think what needs to happen.
There's another idea. Let's bring that one back. Each one teach one. Yeah.
Minister Zulu. Minister Zulu. Thank you. Honorable Myoko, you may conclude.
Yes, Chair. As I conclude, I think, Chair, if we can also implement programs that will ensure that women utilize the access to land for economic development, we work together with government institutions and local government to revive and strengthen the One Home, One Garden campaign, and that government should provide for the poor households, especially those are headed by women and children, and plowing equipment, garden tools and seeds. And government, also with the private sector, should be encouraged to create markets and goods manufactured by women cooperatives and companies. That's how I conclude. Thanks, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Myoko, for your contribution. One can hear that you were the SG of women. Thank you very much. There is a hand of Honorable Hlengwa, Honorable Seikers, and Honorable Mananiso. Mahlengwa, the newly elected chairperson of multi-party. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, all parties. First of all, let me welcome all the comprehensive report that our presenters present today. It means that they are not sleeping in their working day and night. Thank you for that. My contribution is not a question, Chairperson, but a clarity-seeking question. To the SAPs, I'm have a clarity-seeking question of DNA, because there are backlogs in DNA. For instance, in Phoenix, there are many bodies there which are not claimed because DNA is pending. Now, one would very much impressed if this body would speed up so that these bodies will be lay in peace in their places. Secondly, is the VFR. One would want to know, where are these VFR, or is it a center, or what is it? If it is a center, how true is it for those living with disability? For example, language, because there are language barriers. I echo the last speaker, which is talking about the education, because there are language barriers, language sign language, and the challenges of hearing for those who did not hear what one would say, to access, and the challenge for access those living with the physical disability. Because in our days, parents are denying to accept their children who are living with disability. That is another challenge. I think Minister Zulu will bear with me and will concur with me that parents are denying to accept their disability in their children, only they want the grant. Lastly, to the justice, how many of these Tutuzela Center, because if it is in the whole country, they will be helping us, and this committee of the Caucus would know these Tutuzela Center so that to help and to come across and to come up to be in the victory with the Department of Justice, so that our community will be held. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Honorable Sukers.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you, and good morning to all my colleagues and to the presenters. Thank you very much on a very comprehensive presentation. I think, Chair, all of us are disturbed by the levels of violence that is being perpetrated against women and children in our country. And the shocking increase of these it is almost as if gender-based violence has become entrenched in the culture of our country. And it is therefore not an issue that is, and I think fortunately in the last 3 years, the responsibility or the expectation that it is just a one-sided affair in dealing with gender-based violence has shifted the mindset, and that it is a whole societal approach that needs to be taken by all of us. Chair, the one thing that I want to raise as an issue that I have sent, I know, a letter to the Chair about, and that I would like the Commissioner. That I would like the Commissioner to comment on, is the issue of crimes committed, sexual crimes committed by the police, and where rape has rarely been disciplined, as shown in the research. I think the research that I have available, or that I'm reading from, is one where 1,000 cases, nearly 1,000 cases of rape since 2012, according to the data from IPID, has been committed by policemen, whether on or off duty. And many of this has been while where they use the authority of their position to commit the crimes. Up to 97% of those accused are not convicted in court, and partly because of what Honorable Hlengwa has now raised is the problems with the forensic data system. And then many of them are not disciplined by the South African police either, and they remain on duty. Now, what is being done to change this picture of policemen committing crimes against women, and where it remains unaddressed? And in the article, I think that I've shared before in last year in 2020, by the way, this research came out in August of 2021. So this is now 2022, and we need to know as women and as parliamentarians what has been done by the police to address this, and to address not only the cases, but also to deal with the behavior, as well as promoting safe spaces and safe behaviors for women by police. So what has been done? Has anything been done up until now? And what type of programs is being done to address issues of violence and gender-based violence within the police force, to raise awareness and also to provide intervention and support to the members of the force? Because we do know that unresolved mental issues, and in the last 3 years, with the mental well-being of people being under significant pressure, we know that our police suffer the most, especially in our country. So what is being done, firstly, to capacitate the police force, not only to deal with issues of violence and address and raise awareness, but also to provide support to the force, to eradicate the kind of behaviors that at its root has mental issues. But secondly, as well, what has been done to address the lack of action taken against members of the force that has perpetrated such violence against women and that remains on duty. Then, Chair, in terms of our own parliamentary focus as a women caucus, I am certainly one of the members, as you know, that serve on multiple portfolios that significantly impacts my schedule to participate specifically in the things that, like gender-based violence and all the activities that was mentioned by the first presenter around the activities that was done in October and so. But I think it is important for us to address the issue of coordination of activities, specifically when it comes to as it being rolled out into provinces, and the role that we play as women that are serving in Parliament to ensure that whatever happens nationally as well and in the provinces, that we really engage with those forums and bring as many women and activists and people in our constituencies to those. So I just want to comment on that, on the need for us to have better coordination and ensure and participation and awareness around what is being done by the different departments. Those are my contributions, Chair, and I trust that for the next 16 days, as we are having a high strategic focus on gender-based violence, I want to wish all of our parliamentarians that's on this group, our multi-purpose caucus members, wish them well as they embark on the programs within their constituencies. And I trust by the grace of God that we will eradicate gender-based violence in our country. And lastly, just allow me to say lastly, we fail, Chair, to really deal with the issues of pornography I looked at an increase, and I've mentioned this before to the caucus. One of the root causes of violent crimes or horrific crimes against women and children is because of the issues of pornography. And in the last 3 years, research has shown that with the lockdowns, there was an incremental increase in pornography. What we don't want to say is how pornography contributes to violence against women. And it's one of the things that we need to address, as well as the need for us to strengthen family bonds and the family unit as a way of supporting and providing safe spaces for women and children. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sukars. Honorable Mananiso.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me start by welcoming all the presentation and as well acknowledge the ministers and deputy ministers who are present with us today. Chair, I want to actually acknowledge and appreciate the thematic programs that have been adopted by the ministry, and one would like to applaud them for actually choosing the theme of connect, collaborate, and contract. It is important that we note that now they understand that we've been planning forever. Now we need to execute. My question to them is with regards to slide 8, where they indicated that they would be having a program in Mpumalanga for maintenance issues. I want to check with them. Why did they choose Mpumalanga? Can they indicate what are the reasons that Mpumalanga is chosen for this particular program, so that at least when we alert our constituencies, it's based on whatever the reason that they would give. The other thing, it's on slide 9 on Women Trade Expo. I just want to check with them, what is the role of the Proudly South African brand in this particular expo? Because I think that they can play a critical role. So I want to check if the instructions and your SAWIT, how are they involved, and other cooperatives that would be part of this particular program. And I want to suggest as well to the ministry that through this 16 days of activism, the minister must write a letter to all lower structures, province, regions, and CC locals in terms of them accounting on issues of procurement in their constituencies. It's about time that people must understand that when the president pronounces, people must execute. So I just want to suggest to the minister that she needs to get the report from all these levels in terms of 40% of procurements to date, in terms of how many women are benefiting. To SAPS, one would want to welcome the presentation, and I must say that indeed we see some of the men and women in blue who are committed to gender-based violence and femicide in our areas in terms of awareness campaigns. However, one would want to indicate that we need to maximize the number of those who are focal points in those police stations who are dealing with GBVF. My question to SAPS, it's with regards to the 3-year plan that they have on the victim-friendly rooms. I want to suggest to them that they must write to the portfolio, to the Caucus, in terms of the plan of action of this particular 3-year plan. And they have highlighted that they've got 139 police stations who doesn't have victim-friendly rooms. And by 2023 March, they would have 20. Can they just indicate to us in writing which are those 20 police stations? And my other question to them is with regards to, I just want to check with them, do they have a standard
framework they can decide in terms of what is suitable for them. I just want to check that. On the issue of trained police officers on their slide 20, can we have breakdowns per police station, per province and regions in terms of who are those who are trained and per demographics? On slide 31, cases that were prioritized by NPA and SAPS as projects, those 20,747 cases, I just want to check why were they prioritized so that we can just be given reasons. Lastly, on SAPS, can we get a written report as well in terms of how many women, youth, and people with disability that have benefited through their value chain of supply chain management? They can write this to the Caucus if they don't have the report now. Lastly, Chair, it's for the Department of Justice. Let me acknowledge the consistency of Advocate Kambule in this particular caucus for every time sharing with us in terms of the takeaways and progress that they are doing as the department. On slide 6 of support services, one would want to suggest that, Mema Kambule, the department need to strengthen their campaign in terms of ensuring that people, they get to understand what is it that we speak on of in this particular space, because I think this would enable everybody to go, even if they are afraid to open cases. So it is important that we stretch our awareness campaigns to rural areas. And lastly, on the issue of decriminalization of sex workers, I think we need this campaign to stretch as much as it can, more especially in rural areas and informal settlements, because we know that most of the people who are particularly giving this particular service are those who are from the extreme and marginalized areas. So it is important that they know that this government is a caring government, and there's something, there's a bill that is in place that will assist them to actually do their work without any hindrance. So it is important, Mema Kambule, that we have these programs, and it must be provided in different indigenous languages, more especially in areas that we know that people are suffering. That's it from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Mananiso. Honorable Tembekwayo.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentations made. I don't have a lot of comments because some comments and questions has been asked by the honorable members that were engaging with particular reference to the program that is going to be implemented in Mpumalanga. Just to say, I also had the same question to say, what guided the department on choosing Mpumalanga to be hosting the same process? My second question is based on the issues pertaining to the resilience, on how to walk away from the situation of GBV and femicide. I just would like to know more on the elaborated facts on how this process of training or making the people of South Africa aware of how do they walk away from situations of GBV and femicide, because as we have noted that the GBV related cases are not in actual fact decreasing, but they are increasing in a very high rate. The following question is based on those women that are selected from provinces to take part in the women trade export. I just want to ask to say, are the women that are involved in these small businesses who don't have any financial aid of whatsoever, who are coming from the rural and deep rural areas, how are they included, or how are they in actual fact approached, so that they can also form part and parcel of this? So my question would simply be, how do you reach out to those women to take part in the trade and expo that do not in actual fact belong to those that have, or those that have businesses that are easily recognized and are easily included into the project itself? And to the SAPS, in connection with the victim-friendly rooms for the GBV victims, including the desk that was presented here. My problem is, how friendly are those victim-friendly rooms to the victims themselves? What are the principles that underline the running of those rooms? And lastly, I just want to know, where do we report? Say, for an example, we have issues in police stations about some policemen that definitely are problematic, or those people that are given an opportunity to handle these matters, but they are not doing justice to the victims. Where do we report them to, so that we can be able to answer the questions to those that are reporting the problems that they experience with the police? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tembekwayo. We now recognize the hand of the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Lucas. Over to you,
very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also recognize and follow the established protocol and greet all the members of the caucus that is present here, as well as those officials and the minister that also have made a presentation here today. I really want to welcome these presentations, and it's actually giving a very, very good picture of what action is being taken so far. But Chairperson, just yesterday, I was called to a radio interview where community in my area in ZFM district in Uppington, but it is around issues that have been happening in the whole of the district, where actually community marched to the magistrate court because of the notion that even if the police can arrest these perpetrators, it is usually happening that they are walking free from our courts, which is putting the kind of the blame on the judiciary for not really taking the plight of the victim serious. We've been trying to explain issues away, but we also really, I think this is the platform where we can raise issues like that one. To request that, I think we will have to, if we say we have got all these wonderful programs and all of the actions that are being taken with regards to addressing the issue of gender-based violence, but also to make sure that victims are being dealt with in a very humane and a victim-friendly way, then we will have to make sure that there is at one or another point a coordination, but also campaigns that make sure that communities are being involved. Although we really emphasized it very strongly that it is in the first instance the responsibility of communities to make sure that they begin to build safer communities and that they also begin to build cohesion within communities. But we've got the criminal justice system that is there to assist us to address the issues that is actually having a negative impact on our communities. So I was just thinking, in the most instances, we've been complaining for many years and we are still complaining, but we see there is so many output in terms of making sure that law enforcers are being trained to be able to address the issue of gender-based violence, but also to be able to deal in a very sympathetic and empathetic way with the victims. But in many instances, particularly in small police stations, but also in our areas that is usually seen as rural areas, you don't really find that there is that kind of approach to dealing with this kind of issue. I have said it before, Chairperson, I'm saying it again. When we were in Northwest, there was a woman that said, police are laughing at professional women that come to them to report gender-based violence. It is as if it is a teacher cannot beat up his wife, or a teacher cannot be beaten up by her husband, or something like that. So it is sometimes we do have all the equipment, but we are not equipped to deal with the people that are the victims that are suffering from this issue of gender-based violence. And that is why my issue is that where do we coordinate the actions that we take? How do we make sure that there is a equitable spread of all the resources across the country in terms of police stations, but also in terms of the judiciary, the courtrooms, and so on, where really our people can be saying that they feel that they are being given attention to, and the issues, particularly of gender-based violence and femicide, is being addressed. I am very pleased to see that there is a move to make sure, because many of the people where you go to communities and speak to them, they say, but why is our legislation not sufficient to protect us as communities? So it is really commendable that there is a move, particularly to legislate on issues of gender-based violence and on other issues, because that is some of the things that will assist us as activists, because we are not only parliamentarians, but we are also activists, and we are working with our communities. That will assist us to make sure that there is really a response, a comprehensive response to the areas that we've been speaking about. Because in the interview, they actually ask us, why is it only 16 days of activism? Fortunately, I have the information, and I could explain how it really is 365 days with 16 days of activism as a highlight. But what are we doing together to make sure that people really see that indeed it is a 365 days campaign in South Africa with 16 days of activism as a highlight? And one of the questions that people are asking is that why is it that during these times we hear of the most gruesome murders and also abuse of women and children? And we must acknowledge South Africa is generally a very violent and angry society. We are actually presiding over a very angry and violent society. And I think the kind of actions that we see here, and how the police and judiciary and even ourselves, our government and so on, are equipped, if really we can make sure that we penetrate communities with this kind of actions, we will see a South Africa that will be safe for our women and our children. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair, for your contribution. It's like we have exhausted all the hands. I can't see any hands here on my gadget. Department of Justice and SAPS. I don't know which one to start, but let's respond to the issues raised by honorable members. Thank you.
Chairperson, thank you very much. If you allow, it's SAPS, Lieutenant General Musigidi.
Yes.
Let me once more.
You can go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me once more acknowledge, Chairperson, the opportunity that you have given us as a department. Thank yourself and your committee. Also recognize the presence of the Deputy Chair of NCOP, the chairpersons of other committees, the ministers in our midst and deputy ministers, senior officials, and DDGs and DGs that are in the meeting. All protocol is observed. As I indicated, Chairperson, earlier, that in my list of delegates that are in this meeting, I do have provincial commissioners of different provinces, or shall I say all provinces, and the acting provincial commissioners in respect of Gauteng. I think the provincial commissioner of Gauteng is the only provincial commissioner that is not here, but the deputy is in the midst. I also have the divisional commissioners. Chairperson, I don't know what time are we having, but I thought that we need to respond as elaborative as possible to the issues that are raised, starting with the first issue, Chairperson, that Honorable Miyoko has indicated on the issues of skilling of members in as far as the DNA prescripts are concerned. I must say, as it is reflecting on our presentation on different training programs that we are having as a department, we were looking at every possible legislation and empowerment programs that we need to give to our members. This is ongoing, Chairperson. However, I do have the Divisional Commissioner of HRD who will also add on what we are doing as a department to capacitate and empower our members and ensure that we're skilling them, including that we are currently embarking on the new amendment legislation to develop a training manual to capacitate our members further on top of what we are doing, just to take them on board on what is the current requirements of what should happen in that space. In respect of the backlog, Chairperson, I need to boldly indicate that we regret that we ended up with a backlog as a department. However, as we have committed, we have worked very hard to reduce the backlog with the commitment that the minister has already indicated that by the end of January 2023, we should be done with the backlog. We started last year with 241 chair, and we are currently standing at 67. As at Tuesday of this current week, we were standing at 67,000 on the backlog. In total, we are having 114,000 plus on the capacity on what we are having in our labs that is to be addressed, of which outside of the 67,000, it's the cases that we are receiving on a daily basis, and they are receiving attention as per the allocated timelines in our targets. That will be the longest within 113 days. We are working hard not to proceed with the backlog, and I can assure the committee that with the plans that we are putting in place, if everything goes well and we are not experiencing challenges in terms of the power surges, in terms of the crash of the system because of the overload, that we are pushing all the analysis and to ensure that we are analyzing properly, not for the purposes of pushing the numbers. We are adamant that we are not going to proceed with collecting or putting another backlog, but we will address cases as they are coming. We are having collaboration with the departments of NPA to deal with prioritized cases. We prioritize cases as the investigation is finalized and where the DNA needs to be presented to court. We put those as a priority. We are having monthly and weekly meetings with NPA to ensure that those cases are fast-tracked and they are put before the court, hence the 20,000 plus cases that have been finalized through that project. And over and above that, Chairperson, we are also embarking on engaging the national court efficiency structures as well as the PEECs to ensure that we all are on the same page when we present these cases. So all of us, as per the Deputy Chairperson of NCOP has indicated that it should be a collaborative effort that we are all putting together within the criminal justice system. So involving other departments and putting this project and programs within the PEECs and the NECs is to ensure that between ourselves as the police, the NPA, the DSD, as well as a judiciary, we are moving together to address that backlog as it was outlined as well by Advocate Kambula. Chairperson, on the issue of the DNA backlog, I think Honorable Shengwa did highlighted on the issues of the bodies that are sitting in Phoenix, generals in Tumule, as well as the operative within the biology unit of the department are present in the meeting. They will address that issue to just highlight on how far are we with the finalization of those to make sure that, yes, bodies are given back to their respective families and those bodies are laid to rest with the respect that they require. On the issues of the VFR's chairperson, I am with me General Mutala and Director Mngandi, as well as the Divisional Commissioner of Supply Chain Management in terms of ensuring that we do have or exercise what we have put in place in terms of our specification in ensuring that our building are in terms of occupational health and safety, as well as designing them in accordance with the challenges as we are experiencing in regard to the training of police officers in terms of the sign language to assist those that are having other challenges. On physical challenges is the issue of making sure that in our design we do recognize establishing those places with the ramp, but where we do not have that capacity, which is in a very limited numbers, where we do not have the established VF or dedicated VFRs at the police stations, we do have office space that is reserved to recognize people that will come with the challenges and who will be requiring the service. Where we do not have services within the ground floor, it's then that we are going to be looking at other alternatives that people with disabilities can be attended to at the police stations. But it is very limited where we are having police stations that will utilize the offices that will be on top floors where there will be a requirement that people utilizes the stairs to go and access those. But colleagues from supply chain will elaborate on that. In respect of training, we have Dr. Zulu amongst us, a chairperson who will elaborate on the type of training, including the program that we're having on the sign language issues. I think those are the colleagues, chairperson, if I have not left anything out, the colleagues that will come in and give the input, including the awareness campaign that we are embarking on as a department. We do have programs such as a Women's Network, Men for Change, where we are trying to talk to our members in as far as the gender-based violence is concerned. We do have our ambassadors that in different stations, they are addressing the issues as they come. Men for Change to talk to the men within the department. But yes, we still do have some challenges that from time to time we do encounter and we deal with them as they come. I do have the acting divisional commissioner on the human resource management that will also advise us on the progress, Chairperson, as it was highlighted earlier, on the cases or disciplinary cases that we have received, including the IPIT recommendation on the members that needs to be disciplined who were involved in the raid. I can assure the committee that we do not, Chairperson, we do not take any chances when it comes to members, our members who are found to be wanting in as far as the subject is concerned. They are subjected to disciplinary processes. They are arrested even more than what will come on the recommendations. Whether the cases are finalized at court or not, we deal with them as a department where there is a conclusive evidence that we need to subject these members to a disciplinary process. The acting Deputy National Commissioner Support Services is also in our midst that will touch on that space. With that, Chairperson, if you allow, the colleagues, as mentioned, will come and elaborate further on explaining and clarifying some of the issues as highlighted by the honorable members, and from myself to appreciate and will want to thank the members with the input that they have made, including those that have requested that we submit a further submission in as far as the training is concerned, which we will not be having those demographics in as far as the gender is concerned, but General Zulu can highlight if we do not have that, to avoid, Chairperson, and not to give account in this committee and submit the written submission, but it will be very limited. We are trying by all means to be very limited in providing written submission. We want to account in this committee as far as we could. Chairperson, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Musigiri. I think if the caucus can also appreciate if some of the responses can be written and sent to the Secretary of the Caucus, Mandy. We're now proceeding to Department of Justice.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think that I have only 4 questions or 3 to respond to. And we really appreciate the questions for clarity and also for us to respond to certain issues that are not, that we need then to amplify on. So first then is to say that, the first was about the illiteracy rate that we have in our country. And I would like just to thank the honorable member for giving us that statistics, and I will move on with it so as to address certain issues that are in our department, so as to ensure that we are able then to increase our accessibility also to the illiterate. But I would also like to say that we do have what we call the Let's Talk Justice radio. It's a radio talk show that is in partnership with 76 community radio stations, and including a few national radio stations, and we are paying them. And it's a 1-hour session. It is interactive. It is available in different languages. So people are able to ask questions in their own languages and so on. So we do have it. So, but we also need then to come up with other interventions. And I would also like to say that with the information that we have, like that simplifies the different pieces of legislation and so on, and the work that we are doing, we provide that information in different official languages. We also included Braille, is available in Braille. And I would also like to say, Chair, that the Constitution of South Africa is also available in Braille. And now we are looking at having it available in an audio format. Even the act that I was talking about, the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act, is available in an audio format. So we have it in those, but now we need then, as we are now in the process of printing all the amendments that have been done, because people are focusing on the 3 GBV amendment acts that have been promulgated during this time, the 2 years of COVID-19. But I would like just to say that it's not 2, it is 6 bills were promulgated. And we, as women of South Africa, because I'm a gender activist, we are really, really commending the speed that is unprecedented, that was introduced by Parliament in ensuring that all those bills are now laws, have been promulgated into law. So we are really proud as women of South Africa. So it's 6, all of them, it's 6. So, but then to respond then to the next, which is, so what I was saying now is that I'm making a commitment that we will see into whether we cannot, because when we send them out, because we are now in the process of putting them together in a handbook format with all those amendments so that they are accessible to courts and also to all the civil society organizations that they need them. They made a request when we were at the summit and we're asking for them that they would like to have. So now we're in the process of printing, but we'll ensure that we then print them in different languages so as to make them accessible to other people. And also in audio, those that are quite important. With audio, we summarize them to communicate the changes so that people are able to get them. Now, in terms of the pornography, the question that was raised by Honorable Mananiso, I would like just to say this. Amongst the 6 bills that were promulgated with unprecedented speed by Parliament during the first 2 years of COVID-19 was also the Cyber Crimes Act. It's the Cyber Crimes Act number 19 of 2020. And the president signed the proclamation that fixes the date of its commencement as the 1st of December 2021. So it's already operational. So this is one act that criminalizes, it codifies and it penalizes cyber crimes. And amongst the 20 offenses that this act creates is also the revenge pornography. And it defines revenge pornography as the non-consensual distribution of sexually explicit or nude video or photographs and malicious communications, which include sending data messages that potentially incite violence and threaten harm, and containing as well the intimate image of someone. So it's already there. So during the 16 days of activism, we have included this act so that people are aware of it in our products, that is the communication products that we have put together for the 16 days of activism, so that people then are aware that when I take a nude photograph and I take it and I post it, and then it's going to be, I'm committing a crime. And I would also like to say that in terms of the Domestic Violence Amendment Act, it does have a provision there that also compels the communication service providers to be ordered by the courts to provide information in terms of the details of the data source, all right, who actually posted this nude photograph and when was it done, and also to command the service providers, the communication service providers, also to remove that content from the media platform. So we have also included that provision, which is in the Domestic Violence Amendment Act. So then to respond then to the next question that is on How many TCCs? What is the national spread of the TCCs currently? So the TCCs have been 55, for a number of years, a couple of years. But then we saw the speed coming in from the NPA starting from 2020, 2021. So now we have an additional capacity that brings then the national spread of the TCCs to 62. I do not have yet right now the total, the where they are. But I can just say to the committee that amongst the 6 that have been introduced, the additional 6, to bring the total to 62. We have, it's 7 to bring the total to 62. We have one of them is the one that is in Cradock, the Frontier. They are placed in medical environment, that is in clinics and in hospitals. So there's one that has been added that is in Cradock Frontier Hospital. I'm not sure whether it's a hospital or clinic. And then there's another one that is in Paarl, that is Western Cape, another one Uppington, that is Northern Cape, and there's also another one that they added in Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. And then on the 22nd of November, Chairperson, the 62nd TCC was launched at Dulokong in Limpopo, to bring then the total to 62. So those then are the questions and the inputs that I would like to respond to. And I've also taken I've noted the inputs that came from Honorable Lucas and also Honorable Thembekwayo. Those are the issues that they raised that are so important, that we'll then see as to how do we integrate them in our programmatic interventions. Thank you, Chairperson.
Chairperson. Mandy. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Hello.
We can hear you, Chairperson.
We can hear you.
There's echo on your side.
Whip and Deputy Chair, continue.
Yeah, Deputy Chair, can you assist on the next response from the Department of Women?
Thank you, Chairman. Let me thank all the responses of the responses of the departments, and let us go back to our program. We are now in number 6, if I'm not mistaken. Department. Okay. Mandy. Yes, can we assist us where we are now?
I'm back now.
Oh, thank you very much, Chairperson.
Yes. I was checking if Minister Maite is having something to round off, then we conclude with our meeting.
Chairperson, the minister is just out now on call, and will ask Ranjit to respond to the question that was asked around maintenance in Mpumalanga and training of people away from toxic relationships. That was asked by Honorable Thembekwayo and Honorable Mananiso.
Thank you, Chair. May I come in? It's Ranji. Chair, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members, for the questions. A lot of the issues that were raised were actually statements which the department has taken note of, because it's areas we would need to focus on holistically in terms of trying to find interventions, be they short-term or in long-term planning. But Chair, to answer specifically on some questions, I will start off with the issue of the trade expo itself, and particularly on the matter of, are women from the deep rural areas who are not financially well off enough to be part of these processes, are they sidelined? Chair, in all honesty, the process that we had followed is that we had engaged with provinces on a weekly basis. So in order not to leave out provinces that are not easily able to be at Gauteng, we had made sure that we extend this process, but that also we needed the support of the provinces in terms of the financial support of the women businesses that they were identifying. So we allowed, because of the size of the particular trade expo for this year, we had asked each province to give us 10 women in business, but they were the ones who were looking at who were these women. So definitely, honorable member, I do think that there would be women in the deep rural areas that were not reached. But if you would recall, we indicated that we've been made aware of certain issues that will preclude women from being at just one expo at the national level. So we are therefore saying we're also going to embark on having these women trade fairs in provinces, but taking it out into district areas so that it would take care of that. But in this particular instance, where there are women that are not able to support themselves to the trade expo, is being supported by the province or the department in terms of accommodation, travel, food. We've catered for food on that day, water. We've paid for the stalls. There is no financial burden whatsoever on the women businesses. So we've tried to, on that small scale that we are operating on this year, that we will ensure that we can enable women to come to this. But going forward, Chair, we will be working with provinces. Now, one of the things we didn't do for this year's preparation was to go and raise funds for this expo. We did not do that. But going forward, we will work with the WICONA and other business women's associations so that we can raise funds so that at a provincial level as well, we can support women that are unable to financially get to the trade affairs. The idea is to build this trade expo. It was not possible in the one expo to have all women with businesses and to be able to cover all the areas. We acknowledge that, and we will look at options on how we make sure that more and more women have access to this kind of opportunity. In terms of the second issue and let me move to the issue on the maintenance. So, Chair, let me explain here. The last year, in around, I think, November, the department held a hybrid workshop on maintenance. And hybrid because we also invited all of the provinces, but physically, it was mainly dominated by those in Gauteng. Lots of women came in from Alexander and Soweto and other surrounding areas. But one workshop is not enough. you could see that the problem is massive. There are many women who require help. Now, how do we choose provinces? So the department, based on last year's initiative, then said we need to do this across all 9 provinces, and we must start it as a program of the department. So the way that we are doing it at the moment is that we are working with the provinces, and whichever province is ready to have to hold such a workshop, then we would engage with them. Now, it was my mistake, Chair, for this current period, we are not going to Mpumalanga, we are going to Limpopo. I double-checked that. So at the moment, Limpopo is agreeable to work with us on this maintenance workshop for this quarter. Mpumalanga will be done in Q4. So it's not in any particular order, it's in our engagement with the province, and if they are ready to have such a thing at the time we are suggesting, then we go ahead with that province. Now, there's 2 ways the department works with provinces. One is as I indicated, we approach the province because we've got a program that we want to work with them. The second way is where the province approaches us. For example, we mentioned earlier that we are doing the men's forum with the Northwest province. It was actually the Northwest province that approached us to say, can we work with them in putting in place the men's forum? So that's how we are working. It's not like we selected the Northwest. In that case, they approached us, but clearly that shows that we can develop a programmatic approach even on the men's forum. So I hope that answers that question, Chair. The third one, the role of Proudly South Africa brand. Chair, we acknowledge that, and we were aware that we should work with Proudly South Africa, but we needed to have a funding to be able to provide, you need to pay Proudly South Africa, and we were not at that stage where we could pay somebody to run this process. Whatever budgets we had that we are utilizing for the trade expo is from our MTEF allocation, which is not enormous. It's very contained. And so we are managing to do whatever we can do from that budget. But then we're also working in partnership with departments and provinces to assist us in supporting the businesswomen. So for this year, we did not do fundraising, and we were not able to hire any event manager or Proudly South Africa at the moment, etc. But these are issues on the table. We are fully aware of working with Proudly South Africa going forward. Chair, I want to speak on the issue of the 40% procurement. Now, the department is regularly monitoring this particular issue through the National Treasury central database. It's not exactly very easy. There are challenges because of the way the disaggregation is done. But because of our working with the National Treasury, we are asking for more and more disaggregation along categories. There is information. I don't have it on hand. I do apologize, Chair, but I think we can actually provide that to the committee in writing. But the second element to that, Chair, is we undertook as a department a rapid evaluation in 2021-22, last year. And in fact, that report served in cabinet yesterday and was adopted. It was a rapid evaluation on the implementation of the procurement policies and laws and how we are performing. Now, the challenge there as well, Chair, is that a lot of it depended on how the departments responded. And not all departments responded, but from those that responded, we were able to then do an analysis. Not all provinces responded. I think 6 out of the 9 responded. We would love to share that a report as well, Chair, on to the committee. If we could be, I'm kindly requesting if we could be invited into one of the meetings to present this report, because it's an important report in order to work with departments on how, you know, they begin to disaggregate their data so that we can find this kind of information at hand very easily. So we will do in writing, Chair, the figures. In terms of the one on the walkaway and building women's resilience, you know, Chair, the underpinning for this year's thinking is based on prevention, pillar 2. And there are many facets to that prevention. But one of the things we wanted to focus on was, you know, we needed, and this is a long-term project, we needed to look at how do you make sure that women are not referring once again to the financial inadequacy to be able to walk away. That's one element. To be able to walk away is really based on personal empowerment and personal strength. I mean, if all of us on this platform here, I'm not able to say that all of us here, given the levels at which all of us are, we will be able to walk away. It takes far more than money. So there are several areas to this training that is required before a woman can walk away. And I think that's something that is now stimulated in our minds as a department that we need to look at and plan going forward. Number one, there is a need for education. Educational empowerment is very critical. We will have to look at all of the elements that will contribute to somebody being able to make the choice to walk away, because it's such a personal choice. The second element is what is happening at the shelters, where women are already victims, but they've only gone to the shelter, which is temporary. What will enable them to walk away and build a new life? Same with the TTCs. We will have to explore this with the advocate Kambule as well. Then in terms of the economic, when you look at the economic, you'll see that the Women's Trade Fair is particularly focusing on women who are self-employed or women who are owning businesses, but it's not tackling the issue about women who are employed. They also need to become economically resilient. Now, if you are employed, you are employed under somebody else, but that doesn't mean you are economically resilient. So there are many, many elements that needs to be looked at holistically before, and then there's a huge issue of unemployment. So what are we saying about how will unemployed women be able to walk away? So Chair, what we're saying is you've stimulated our thinking now that this is a big issue that needs to be thought out well as a department, but I'll rest it there, Chair. I hope I have managed to address all the issues raised to the department. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Raji. Thank you for all the responses that we received and the update that we received today from the 3 departments. Honorable members, there is a saying in Shangan, saying, it's long we've been here and we want to prepare ourselves for the house. Let's call it a day. And thank you very much to everyone. The house adjourned.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank